Welcome back. Thank you very, very much for staying with us. My name again is Kwame Owusu Danso, and today we're going to have a very wonderful time. You know, when you're getting into an examinations hall and you've read all the subjects, but you are told at the embers of the examination that, Charlie, this question they come, but you have not read. You know how that feeling is like. And this morning, I presume that we're going to be experiencing same on the morning show. The panelists that I have here are very much aware of the examination question because it has leaked. However, I don't know whether it was out of complacency or whatever, but they've not been able to read or cover the whole area. So they're running for cover. You know, when they ask you to describe the sky, you say, oh, so the sky is where we have the sun, and then now you begin to say that the clouds gather and the rain start falling. So the rain is there. You remember Moses Zambin is here seated and is representing the CPP, undoubtedly one of the wonderful young men that CPP is producing. He's gunning for the national organizer position of the CPP. Definitely is going to win. If he doesn't win, then CPP to you people will get problem. Sure. If you don't like somebody who work for you, then you get problem. Anyway, and Gabriela Tete is also here. Gabi, good morning. Why are you still gazing? You know the questions, but Charlie, you know the questions, but you don't remember with your. Oh, goodness me. Right, so let me quickly take you through the topics that we've tabled for our conversation. First, we're looking at an African question, which is Malawi leader appoints new electoral chief ahead of rerun. Not even ahead of the elections, or rerun. The man lose the thing. No, they understand. Akufo-Addo is the biggest promoter of corruption, says the NDC, as it launches corruption tracker. MPP parliamentary primaries, 374 battle for 101 slots. 65 go unopposed, 3 on hold. Daily Graphic reported that. IPRAN writes to ECOWAS on EC's decision to compile new voters register. Finally, EC files response to the Supreme Court, explains why they want to exclude the voters' ID card. These are the topics that we've tabled for our conversation. I trust and I hope that we'll be able to duly deliver here on the morning show, and we'll actually make some little sense here. The WhatsApp number is active, is 0260846539. Guys, good morning again. Gabi, are there no? The ABC and AC, you know. So, question 1. Malawi leader appoints new electoral chief ahead of the run. I want to quickly start with you. You remember on that, and I'm sure you've read the story, or you've heard actually. That Charlie, the man say no. I saw that. What is this? Yeah. I'm kidding. Oh, Kwame, a very good morning to your cherished viewers. A very good morning. And to the delegate. Of course, the delegate of the Great Convention People's Party. So in the CPP, do they worry people for money? Oh, if you say, delegates, they have some common features or characteristics. Okay. Maybe it will not be as profound as it is in the NPP and the NDC, but they have some common features. Okay. Which you know. Yes, so yes, I thought that we are trying to build. Oh, they have no control that you have to. Kwame, I'm not saying no, I said they have some common features. Which is, I will leave it there. Fear delegates. I'm telling you. So I salute all of them, and I know that can't vote me. At the end of the Congress, I myself with a formidable team, we emerged victorious for us to put the CPP on another pedestal. Very good morning to acting chairperson and leader, Ajia Hamdatu Ibrahim. She's bereaved. So, good morning to you, Ajia. Yeah. Condolence. Why? The 40-day Adwa? Not the 40. I think one of her nieces or her cousin. I'm not very sure. In when? Kumasi. That was so she's in Kumasi as we speak. When? That was during the week. She went to the funeral, I think, a week ago, and they are there doing other preparations. So Ajia, condolence from me and the entire convention. Wow, that's strange. Yes. So Kwame. In fact, when I read this story, I was like, what is happening? How can you appoint a new electoral commissioner for a runoff? Of course, it is then written in black and white what your intentions are for you electing or appointing a new commissioner for a runoff. But it's all based when it boils down to constitutional arrangement. Some of us are of the opinion that most African countries have vested so much power into the presidency. And I believe moving forward, these are some of the areas we should exploit. The AU should be concerned with such things and the ECOWAS. Because it looks as if we've given so much power to the executive that at any given time, they want to use it to their advantage. This is a clear case where you can see that the Malawian leader wants something to be done in his favor. And I will not heed to any advice or any reason that will try to project that he did that out of merit or he did that out of goodwill. Kwame, I don't see any goodwill from a leader trying to appoint a new leader who have even appointed a new commissioner just ahead of a runoff. So, Kwame, moving forward, let's lay emphasis on constitutional, amendments. African countries are vesting too much power into their leaders. And this is really affecting the flow of democracy in the African continent. So even in our own case in Ghana, people have argued that we can find other means of appointing the EC boss. Now, moving forward, Kwame, what might happen in Ghana might not be in good taste, because you have parties who will come to power and will find it uncomfortable working with EC bosses. And that is a dangerous trend. And I believe this is what we are also seeing in Malawi. So Kwame, I believe we should sit up as Africans. We have the solutions here. Let's look at amendments that can ensure that the EC or the committee.
And then to the NDC fraternity and to all Ghanaians. This is a very interesting story, actually.
Okay, hold on. Let me just go for this quick breather. I shall return shortly. No, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Quick commercial break. Stay with us. I'll return shortly.
Hey, Bukuya. If you know all the pressure to me, sister.
Hello?
Oh, sister, sound.
Okay, why? Hey, my wife comes and send a message you. Your face is going to hello? You know, what's happened?
It's a chance who will be a quiet say what? I dare say,
besides, friend of fair, I'm so here too. My wife is not testing messages here, and our office so I'm trying to tell you, she says, I
mean, so we a guy man, and may young who could look cry. And so also wants a family drilling company limited for Ghana.
What's it then? Family Dwelling Company Limited.
Ye two borehole, biofuel, biogas, swimming pool, plumbing works in Danso, ye be, Frey 0240 333 111 and that's 0244 144 822.
Miampa and no swimming pool me see. Me want to will be here. Family dwelling now. Family dwelling.
So fast is your last set.
Me out that.
Back. Thank you very much. If you just joined us, you're watching the news part of this segment here on Pan African Television with yours truly, Kwame Owusu Danso. And Gabi, so you greeted Mavis Daniela.
Okay.
Or should I like to be called Mavis?
She's Catholic. So
Oh,
her
Daniela. Okay.
Catholic name is
Daniela.
Daniela.
And then the
The middle name is Mavis. like how Gabriella Doris. Did you know that?
No.
Okay, so now you know.
You're not Dorcas, you're Doris.
I'm Doris.
I see.
I was named after Doris Day.
Oh, okay.
Right now, let's talk about Malawi.
Yes,
Not
talk about
us.
Malawi. Yeah.
So this is a very interesting outcome of the Malawian elections. You know, in 2019, the actual elections were annulled, and then they were supposed to have a re-election, I think sometime in May. And then now, this is the rerun. It speaks a lot to how elections are held in this part of the world. And gerrymandering and all kinds of
Buccaneering acts.
and Machiavellian tactics, just to attain power. To appoint a new EC chief after a rerun did not go, after the first round did not go in your favor. I don't understand why the opposition and all the other elements are not protesting about this. And even the international community and civil society organizations who are supposed to be promoting and spearheading democracy on the continent, even with the AU. But perhaps it's early days yet. Maybe we should give it some days and see how the rest of the continent responds to it. But I find it very, very interesting that to do everything to hold on to power, a president can reappoint a whole new individual to fill a position in the hope that that individual can turn things in his favor. It's marks of desperation. It's marks of dictatorial tendencies. I mean, there's so many negative things that you can connote to this act alone. And there's similar things also happening in Ghana that I hope we will not get to this stage. But I know that in this country, at least the citizenry are very much enlightened about electoral processes and their rights, and will not sit back for any of these gerrymanderings to take place anywhere near here. You know, now we'll get to the topic. Right now we have issues with the EC and their new register 6 months to a general election. And the whole uproar with the leadership of the current EC in trying to justify by all means a new elections register and an entirely new comprehensive electoral management system for this country 6 months into an election. So I think it's early days yet. Let's just wait and see how Malawi election goes and whether it will turn in its favor. But even if it does turn in its favor, he does win. I mean, because of the events that have preceded the actual election, I'm not sure people really respect that kind of presidency that much. Because, I mean, how do you yourself as a president feel when you go to the sister community and then you know that your win was actually given to you because of all these shenanigans? You know, so I think it's early days yet. Let's wait and see the events of the runoff.
Okay.
And see how it goes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Now let's get back home and deal with our own internal issues here. At least Malawi is appointing a new electoral chief. I don't know whatever reason. I'm sure.
Yeah. You know, it's very interesting. You know, the former commissioner in Malawi, he resigned.
Yeah.
And it was the opposition that was pushing. And there was so much pressure on him, and he decided to resign. So you opposition, you were seeking for change. The guy has resigned, and now the president has then appointed a new person, and you think it is even worse than the former.
No,
you see the issue?
But that is what it is.
You see?
That's what it is. I mean, if like I always say, and I think I've quoted this thing here a number of times, that justice is rooted in some level of confidence. That confidence is destroyed if one party feels that that the system is acting or gravitating towards another party. So that is why at all material times we must have an open system so everybody will feel comfortable.
That's
you know,
you're right.
So I mean, I don't begrudge them at all. Honestly, I don't begrudge them at all. And it's precisely the case in Ghana.
Of course,
you know that Charlotte Osei in the estimation of the NDC was negatively removed, right? And Jen Mensah brought in. Now they are also up in arms because obviously they feel that owing from the track record and the work of Jen Mensah, she appears to be more of an MPP person than an NDC person or even a neutral person. So we're definitely going to be facing such issues. That's right. That brings into the question of, well, not necessarily the question, but I want us to discuss the issue of corruption in Ghana. I don't know if you have read Nyaho Tamaklo's press release. I read it extensively yesterday, this dawn. And he is actually very disappointed in the Akufo-Addo administration. And I think that he has never hidden from the public his disagreements, you know, with Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo as the president of the Republic of Ghana. He has called for, he listed a number of things. He spoke about bust. He spoke about the fact that Nanka Bruce was brutalized. He spoke about how Charlotte Osei was removed. He spoke about a number of things, you know, and that he feels should have been done in a more legitimate manner. But it appears that the manner in which it was done has created an atmosphere of mistrust. So people do not really trust the government. People don't trust the system. And he is even admonishing that if the president has intimated, and you know, a number of people have so intimated that the president is a human rights activist. This is the time for that human rights activism to be demonstrable at all fronts, right? So it feeds into the NDC's tracker that appears to also be looking at the president as, you know, the primus inter pares when it comes to the promoter of corruption in Ghana. And they have designed a tracker to track the president. Issues have come up. Although you remember that boss has also come to respond to some of the things that were put up by the NDC. But generally, we have been alive to the realities of allegations, some level of allegation that were leveled against the MPP. In fact, that also led to, I think, a survey that was conducted where Ghana was first in terms of corruption in West Africa, in West Africa, and then in Africa, and third in the world. You know, so we have to, by all means, look at all of these issues, these tangentials and these manifest issues, and discuss them holistically. Practically, from where you sit, do you see the Akufo-Addo government as one that promotes, that encourages, that condones corruption? You remember?
Kwame, the issues pertaining to corruption in this country is a very complex one. More especially when we have political leaders making tough statements when they are in opposition. But when you give them the mandate, they tend to be people who can walk the talk. And I think in this case, this is what we are seeing. They say an easy lies the head that wears the crown. So when you are outside the ring and you are seeing a lot of mistakes and loopholes, and you make tough, you know, assertions that, look, I will not tolerate A or B, and you are being given the mandate, and all what you could do is to start clearing your personals, then it is a problem. You see, what is happening over the years is that we've made corruption in this country extremely attractive. That is why youth of today, from outside, they look through and say, oh, politics, they are dead. I'll become a politician. You ask him, why do you want to become a politician? Oh, that is the issue. We've made this thing extremely attractive. And they think that the only way to make it in this country, the shortest cut, is to go through the political system.
Is it not the case?
That is not the case. That shouldn't be the case. But exactly. That is the case.
Yes.
Precisely.
I mean,
yeah, that shouldn't be the case. But unfortunately, that is the case. Well, we had leaders in the past who left power with nothing.
Yeah.
Our own Osajofo left power with nothing. In fact, even in the old CPP, some people also enraged themselves. So this canker is not something that started today. But you see, Kwame, in our own society, if Kwame, you become a minister today, and you're a straight guy, you are so tough, you don't entertain corruption, your own family members say, Kwame, no, MCBB, Hano. I'm telling you, they'll say, Kwame, no, I don't know. How can you become a minister and there's nothing to show for it? You see, this is the kind of orientation we also have as a people. We are expecting that if you are in a position of authority, come what may, you should start enriching yourselves. So that in the next 3 years, we should say, Kwame, I will be minister. So, in the likely event that you don't show them that, you know, you've been a minister, you can boast of all these goodies, they think psychologically you have a problem. So this is where the issue has gotten to. The society as a whole, our orientation about this whole thing is out of place. Totally. So now, how do we reorient the people?
You see, you are discussing the ramifications of corruption.
That's right.
But you are not discussing the root cause of it. What creates what has created that system of if there's any word like that, comfortability that will allow for anybody to want to steal from the state? What has created that?
Because what is the fundamental?
So let's discuss the fundamentals. Yes. It's beyond the cracking of the whip lies the issue about poverty and the fact that we have created a system where the upper class in society always continues to maintain that status quo and allows for the lower class to always be there.
That is it.
So that they can always take advantage of them. They can always allow them to pay taxes and they can use it and create the impression that they are doing something better for them.
Precisely.
And that gave birth to all the poverty alleviation, whatever. So I just want us to look at the root cause before we look at addressing the matter.
No problem. So, as you rightly said, in fact, fundamentally, that has been some of the challenges and the root cause of this canker. People feel that when leaders are even caught in the web, clearly that they are engaged in some deals, they still find a way of being cleared. And that is what has motivated others to even do worse than what their predecessors have done. And Kwame, it is no joke, because the populace, they are just watching and saying that, hey, these people, they are really taking us for granted. Now, don't be fooled. Now, people are getting enlightened. And I always tell people, those who have nothing, when they are destroying, they do it with joy.
Of course.
And that time will come where they'll start chasing the political class. In fact, all of us, in some time to come, will not be safe. Even though I have never tasted power, all of us have been put in one box. That the political elites, we are trying to always upgrade them and make sure that we are always, they say the rich is getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Kwame, why have our leaders failed to crack the whip? It's a very simple thing. Before elections, we are going to election 2020. A lot of people are going to invest in political parties. Seriously. Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And when they do the investment, of course, they are not for that Christmas. Of course, there's no free lunch in economics. So, of course, they will expect something in return. So, first of all, if you come to power, you Kwame, more $20 million to campaign. Who are you? When I tell you that I want certain contracts, and I want to do it through the back door, and I want to do it through the, the bad way, you can't open your mouth and say, J. Because you know that, in fact, if it was not for me, Mambo, who have invested so much into your campaign, you will not be where you are. Unfortunately, this is the situation we are facing in Ghana. So it makes it extremely difficult for our leaders to crack their whip. And I'm telling you, Kwame, sometimes I look and I say, hey, is the future bleak? It is not bleak. There is a solution. The solution is when the people are reoriented. For them to understand that we shouldn't celebrate mediocrity in this country, where a politician comes to you and gives you peanuts or 2 cedi 10 cedis expecting your vote. Ask yourself, where did he get this money to invest or trying to give me this patents to vote for him? They do that at the end of the day. They've spent so much in their campaign and you don't expect them to steal? People have spent over millions just to become MPs and you want him to become an honorable MP without engaging in cutting short corners? It won't happen. Some time back, a lot of the CSOs made a very good survey on how much MPs spend on an election. It will surprise you. It was ranging between $100,000 to $250,000. Even some more. That was the average. Which is no joke. Kwame, so if I spend that much on you, just on people by buying oil, buying rice, and at the end of the day I become an MP, you don't want to recoup what I've spent? Surely I have to.
Is it a systemic failure, a creation of the system, or a deliberate attempt just to create a system that will allow for people to steal from the state? I'm asking this question because, look, I know about political opportunism. I know about clientelism.
That's right.
I know about
That's
policy of monocracy. Okay, I know about all of these things.
Yes.
But all of these things are not divorced from the fundamental crack, which has to do with that. Because then the question that I'm asking really is that what has created all of these? And what gave birth to the rise of vote buying, for instance? Because the people are not rich. They are poor.
Extremely.
Are you following?
I'm following.
They have voted for people all these years. When did even vote buying start in this country? They voted for people for all these years, yet they are still in, their lives are still in a very deplorable state. They are not benefiting from the spoils of the state. They realize that somebody just completes the university, doesn't do any job. The person finds a way of getting into some political party, begins to insult some people, he gets position and he's rich overnight. Are you following?
That's right.
So if the person comes to you and is asking for your vote, that is the time that people, and that's the perception out there.
Of course.
That's the time that people feel that I need to make money.
Yes.
Because when I give this guy the opportunity to go there,
I won't see him again.
But then also lies in the bigger question of whether the people know the power they wield. The people power. Do we know the power that we wield? So let's look at all of these fundamental
So Kwame,
issues.
First things first. If the people are well educated and well oriented and are resourced and can have access to basic things of life, I'm telling you, it will be very difficult for any politicians to go and stand there and promise them heaven and earth.
It's like I am so.
Precisely.
If you are not, if they don't like you, they don't like you.
Precisely. So education is going to play an important part, and resources. When we talk about resources, when you make sure that your citizens don't like basic things of life, if you're able to do these two things, Kwame, I'm telling you, that is where people are going to scrutinize you for who you are. They are going to ensure that they are not going to take 50 cedis from you or take cooking oil from you before they vote. And that is what the political class has also failed. We failed in ensuring that our majority of our citizens are well educated and they don't like any basic necessity.
Don't you think that's a deliberate failure?
Well, we are socialists.
Continue to impoverish the people.
Of course.
Continue to make the people uneducated. Take advantage of that.
That is it. And we are socialists. For us, the welfare of the people is always our supreme law. And that is why it hurts us sometimes when we sit behind and see that, no, we failed as a nation. That people are now celebrating mediocrity. Since unit classroom block, they will take a lot of convoy to go and commission, and people are happy that they've done something. They've done nothing. Before our citizens will be well off, we need to provide basic things of life. Hospital, it has no problem. Food, it has no problem. Shelter. I'm telling you, if you're able to get these things intact, come on. Then the people, I'm telling you, Kwame, they are going to scrutinize you from who you are. Now they lack these things, and they believe that this is the time they can get something small from you. So they'll fall in.
Okay. Now let me still stay with you. I'm not moving to.
Of course, yes.
I mean, I'll give Gabriela the opportunity to respond to look at the issue. But let's look at the issue of corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, we have sort of identified the root cause, which is poverty, which is lack of education, which is lack of development, lack of provision of basic social amenities and things like social interventions and things like that. So that's fundamentally, the issue, right?
Yeah.
So moving beyond that periphery lies the issue about when we spoke extensively about clientelism, which means that let me support you when you get into power. I get contract and I make money. Now, if you look at some of the allegations that have been leveled against the Akufo-Addo-led administration, even before then, John Dramani Mahama's administration was characterized by a lot of corruption allegations, albeit unsubstantiated. Because when the NPP came into power now, they said, so what is really corruption in politics? Is it corruption as explained from the perspective of a political party that wants to win power, and so thinks that the only way to convince the people to rally behind you is to label another political party as corrupt?
Precisely.
Or corruption is indeed and in fact that which has been identified by a series of investigations into the actions or inactions of persons who have been given political power to act for and on behalf of the people. Which is it?
It's both.
Which is it?
It's both.
Okay.
Why is it both? The first allegation you made is a propaganda tool that sometimes political parties employ to ensure that they make the citizens see their opponents as bad. It happens all the time. And all of us as politicians, we can't run away from that. Maybe we might have heard something, but when you put it to street proof, you can't prove it. You've heard, hearsay, yes, you can't prove it. And the second one, as you said, yes, there have been investigations, we found the persons guilty, those also exist. But unfortunately, the second one that you mentioned, people have been found, it is clear from all the investigations done that they are guilty. But the political class still finds a way of clearing them. That is where the challenge is. That is where, even within BOSS, it was so clear.
Exactly the point. That was the point. Because all of these people have somehow invested into the campaigns of the political parties. So you look at BOSS, you look at the Maritime Authority, and then you're looking at some other state-owned agencies and parastatals whose chief executive officers have been directly cited as persons who have stolen from the state allegedly.
Yes.
Investigations conducted. There's some level of evidence adduced.
Very glaring.
Yet the person is either sacked or sent to the ambit of presidency for protection.
Or even nothing is done at all. The person is self-maintained. So that is the challenge. Where there's so much evidence, it's so glaring that the person has committed a wrongdoing. And still we sit aloof and watch.
You remember this issue
and that is why it makes it attractive.
You remember this issue about the CEO who allegedly created, well, I don't know whether it was the wife or himself, who created another company.
Public procurement.
Procurement, yes. Procurement issue. That was Manasseh's word, right?
Yeah, procurement issue. We know about conflict of interest.
Yes.
And conflict of interest doesn't have any other definition. It is one.
That is it.
Taking advantage of your position, to create wealth.
Yeah.
Or, because if you are seized with that, that's why lawyers are not, if you're a lawyer, for instance, and then you are seized with an information from your client, or you are aware of some benefit that your client may get in the event that a particular decision goes his or her way, and then you go through, you circumvent, the whole process.
Yes.
And then go and purchase the property. So, for instance, your client wants to go and buy this property. You know that you can afford. Then you go behind your client. Yes. Those things are all fundamentally. So, perhaps, is it not also, this whole corruption issue, is it not also as a result of the fact that we've created a system of comfort for some political elite to always go unpunished? And you can also juxtapose this particular assumption with the revelations over the years by the Auditor General. Every year we see that.
Yeah, it is very, very
Yet nothing has, absolutely nothing has been done about those matters. So let's look at
Kwame, so precisely the issue. That is why I said this canker of corruption has become extremely attractive. Because as a young man, I see people stealing and nothing is being done to them. It's a good motivation for me. It means that if I'm even smart, I can be richer than them. Because it's just being smart. And just circumventing the system, and we are there. So Kwame, in fact, Ghana now, we have a serious challenge. When somebody comes into public office, they say we have an act where people declare their assets. We understand that it is sealed. When it is sealed, nobody knows the content until an allegation is made before this is opened. I believe this is the time we have to revise this note. If our political leaders are serious, if His Excellency is serious, let's have a revision of this act. And ensure that Kwame, immediately you are appointed, we are going to track all your assets. Immediately you leave office, we'll do same and call you to find out from you.
If you have a leader who even before a report is issued by the institution that is mandated to conduct investigations into issues of corruption, how do we deal with corruption? Because then you have a president come out boldly even before a report is issued.
Yeah. So it means
to say that you have not done anything, I've cleared you. How do we?
You can never win a fight. You keep on losing. Because in all this
and same for former President Mahama too. Because I remember there was also an allegation against Owusu Ankra. And you know what happened?
Of course.
And once a commission is put together to investigate into the matter, all evidence so produced at the commission will not be admissible in court. So you know what that means?
Of course.
So now, if you steal or if you engage yourself in anything,
the president can reject it.
Yeah. And that's what
we've done that several in this country.
No, but even this one, that's what happened. This yeah,
they will just reject it. We don't agree with you, A or B. But they have done extensive investigation and found out the facts. But the president just by a pen or I disagree, and that ends it. So this fight against corruption starts from the top. The political head must be active.
Why don't we start the fight against corruption at the bottom. You know why? Because if the people become aware, and you see in your submission, you said that people are now aware.
Yes.
If people are aware of the ramification, I recall before the MPP took office. Wait, no. Immediately after MPP took office, I remember very clearly when Ken Oforiatta was before the Parliamentary Appointment Committee.
Yeah.
And he was responding to how he was going to deal with the issues of finances of the state and things. He spoke eloquently about how we're losing millions of Ghana cedis at the port. You remember?
Yeah.
And he said that when he got the opportunity, he was going to pluck it. What is happening there?
It will be worse.
Are you following? So it's not like we don't know what it is.
That is it.
But I feel that if the people are aware and the people speak truth to power and the people are united with their position to say that if you are a government, even if I belong to, for instance, the NPP or CPP or PNC or NDC, right? And the government fails to do things that will directly benefit we the people, we are voting you out. I think people will begin to think.
Well, I think we are getting there, but we are not yet there. As we speak in Ghana, we have a lot of fanatics in our politics. No matter what it is, they know that this government is doing wrong. I am for them, and there's nothing that can change my mind. We have people like that. But fortunately for us too, we have also people who are also floating voters, who are discerning. But I'm presuming that the latter, they are in majority, that the fanatics. Because no matter what you do, somebody will tell you, say, hey, you're giant proud, you see how much CBP, such a person.
Yeah.
We need 10, no matter what evidence you show the person, you will not understand.
Fantastic.
You
Thank
still
you.
vote for that political.
Thank you, Mambo. Gabi, let's hear from you. I'm sure you are going to be listing the corruption allegations leveled against this administration. Plenty with a tracker. Plenty. Let's shoot.
So yesterday,
and make sure you list yours too. Those that were leveled against the NDC when you were in power.
I thought you were going to ask me my personal sense. So yesterday,
you as a human being or you as a
no, the way you posed the questions, it was and I hope that the US.
No, I mean you, the NDC.
So yesterday, the NDC launched the corruption tracker to remind ourselves as Ghanaians of the numerous corruption allegations that have been leveled against this current Nana Akufo-Addo's government and himself, and how to date very little is seen in the fight against corruption. You remember the Bust case in 2017, where there were some 471,000 liters of contaminated fuel.
Was it 3 million or 4 million?
Sold to a company that did not have the license to engage in that business.
Yeah.
Proceeds of that sale were not paid to the state. After a committee to investigate the allegation came up with its recommendations and asked whether to confirm the veracity of the allegations or otherwise, the Nana Akufo-Addo regime decided to clear the man and just take him out of office, but nothing else came out of that issue. There's the issue of the one that you just mentioned, the Public Procurement Authority case, where there was a clear case of conflict of interest because the man's brother and wife were, in some jurisdictions, you refer to that kind of activity as insider trading, where you know that the amount quoted in the procurement contract is this amount,
so you
and then you deliberately beat the price down so that it works in your favor. Insider trading in many jurisdictions where they have serious anti-corruption laws is a crime. We remember the Ameri deal, where governments said they were going to renegotiate their Ameri deal because it was over-bloated. But when the second version, the revised version of the Ameri deal came out, we found out that it was even more padded than the first, if there was any padding in the first. We remember we can go on and on and on with so many cases. Just recently, early this year, we even heard of the excavators which were seized from small-scale miners, Galamsey illegal miners, and how they found their way into supporting party activities and political activists, Galamsey businesses. We remember the issue of the tricycles that disappeared with a whole container of 40-footer containers of tricycles disappeared from the Northern Development Authority warehouses. Yeah. Also, to date, we don't know what has come out of that case. So there are so many instances of corruption and corruption-related activities that Nana Akufo-Addo is deliberately pretending that he's neither hearing nor seeing nor speaking on. His is a clear case of I hear no evil, I see no evil, and I speak no evil. Kwame.
Yep.
To fight corruption, in fact, there's only one individual in this country who I admire very much in the fight against corruption, and that is the Auditor General. And I think that man is God sent to this country at a time such as this.
Who?
The Auditor General.
Okay.
Because he
Domilovo.
He and his team at the Audit Service are doing everything to uncover misappropriation of funds, and they are bringing it to the fore. They are surcharging people who have been found to divert funds and all kinds of things. And I think that we as citizens, we should hold that man in high esteem and do every single thing to protect him and the Audit Service. You know the Crow matter, where they've pre-financed an audit from this company by over $1 million without going through due process, and you don't even know what the people came to do. Now there's a battle between the Auditor General and the Senior Minister. That is a test of a government that should be willing to fight corruption. When the Auditor General raises accusations against anybody in the current regime, I think if I was president, I would be more inclined to go with the Auditor General, because that is his job, to audit and find out where the truth lies. There are 3 institutions in this country that if we really want to fight corruption, we have to empower. How do we do that? First is these 2 institutions. Who are they? The Ghana Police Service, IOCO, and the Auditor General's Department. Now, if you look at all these 3 institutions, aside from the Auditor General's Department, IOCO and the Ghana Police Service, at the moment, are the only ones whose current appointment is made by the current administration. A kingdom that fights itself will never stand. That is not to say that the gentlemen or the people who lead these organizations are people of bad integrity. That is not the point. The fact of the matter is, take the police service. When the gentleman who was arrested as part of the coup makers, Dr. what's his name? Agboso. When they gave the presentation on the transformational agenda of the Ghana Police Service, and they iterated the things that should be done in the police service to empower the Ghana Police Service to be able to step up their game in protecting citizenry, lives and property, and also managing the security, interior security of this country. Look, if we were to take the appointment of the IGP from the political space, as in the presidency, and rather preside the appointment of the IGP to Parliament, so that whoever are shortlisted, a parliamentary committee sits, vets them, and then the best candidate is chosen and given to the president to appoint by every means. That person's loyalty is first and foremost to the state and the people. No government can come and tell him to go this way, that way, that way, that way. In the US, the chief of police can say what he wants to say to... Yes, but the administration is aware of where his appointments come from, where his powers come from. Take IOCO. Look at the amount of money the British serious front office.
But really, on this particular argument, where do they derive their power from? They derive their power from the Constitution.
Yes.
Which constitution derives
but at the moment, how is the appointment made?
No, granted.
Because he sees his appointment.
Yeah.
You see, when you get to
but
a
the
certain
appointment
level,
is made by the president, who derives his authority from the constitution. The constitution is the sovereign will of the people.
My dear, that constitution. Let us be very factual.
Okay.
It is nothing less than a book with list of sentences on what should be done. We all know, as it is right now, we are coming to discuss EC, where CI 12 is in contention. Is it not a constitutional provision that a person should be given the opportunity to vote if he's of clear mind, 18 years old, has no criminal record, and so and so and so? We'll get to that stage. So even what's in the constitution itself is limited. But when an appointee feels that his power and authority and his office is derived really from the physical people and not just a document that we are all supposed to follow. If anything goes wrong with the police service, for example, Parliament summons him to come and speak. At the moment, who's Parliament going to summon? Interior Minister. Interior Minister will come and say what they brief him to say. Is that not so?
So there's no real accountability in your system?
No. Take Iyoko. When I see how much money the Serious Fraud Office of the UK makes for the British government, I look at Iyoko and I ask myself, what are we getting wrong with Iyoko? What I see is a political government comes, they have a whole list of people they are going to investigate and prosecute. That list is given to Iyoko. Iyoko does the investigations, they march you to court. Iyoko, I'm here to see an Iyoko that on its own takes its own investigations, especially into the private sector. Because mind you, in the political space, there are many politicians who are actually influenced by players in the private sector who come and do government business with government. But if Iyoko was empowered properly and independently to pursue those business people and their business interests and align it into the state and how people are now manipulating state actors to get those contracts behind the scenes and all those things, the amount of money we'll be able to save for this country. The Airbus issue is the Serious Fraud Office of the UK that initiated the process to find out the dealings of Airbus globally. Am I lying? And that's not the only case. Even Boeing has similar issues also with the Serious Fraud Office. And there are so many cases where consistently the Serious Fraud Office is always out there trying to save the British taxpayer money. Even when it's private business to private business dealings. Currently, for those of us who are political actors, when you've gone to a certain level in the political space, you are considered a politically exposed person. Your bank account is monitored. So at every point in time, they know how much your bank balance is. Sometimes even your phones are tracked. Who calls you and who doesn't call you. But let's even work with your bank balances, because the those we call financial intelligence, something at the Bank of, I don't know whether they are still there or they've moved them to a different office now. But they have highlighted all the people they call politically exposed. And at any point, they know how much movement is happening around you. You have state security also monitoring you. So it's very difficult to say that you'll be corrupt and hide your dealings.
Yeah.
The system has a way of watching you and tracking you.
Yeah, so
how then do you move that to a case where people who are actually found culpable are then found out and prosecuted, not because a political system came to power and said that we are coming to prosecute you for corruption. It is the state itself that is able to generate those facts and take you to court. That is the states where I want to see this country get to in the fight against corruption. Because as he said earlier, a person comes to office. In the campaign period, you meet somebody, and the person, like how we're on TV always talking, then somebody looks at you and goes like, you have the potential. I think that when they come to power, you may be a minister somewhere. Then the person takes a risk on you and comes to support you going up and down to do campaigning. You come into office And then the person then expects that for the support they've given you, you have to be able to influence something for them. I mean, I had a case where in 2014, 2015, a businessman actually told me that you haven't given me a contract. I looked at his face and I laughed. And I said, I work in policy. I don't share contract. But it was expected that because I know you, I should be able to find and influence something from you. It's not in my nature to go and chase contracts. That's not the line of business I'm interested in. So I can't go and do that job. But there are people who, unfortunately, you may not be able to stand your ground because of the influence that person has over your life, because of the dealings that you've had with that person. If the state was empowered to be monitoring you, the state should be able to pinpoint the relationship between this individual, because if the state also recognizes that since this party came to power, this individual has been able to grow their net worth by this, they've been able to acquire this, and we all live in communities. Everybody knows when this person was in opposition, they were like this. When these people came to power, they are like this. And you can see the vast increase and the vast change, transformational change.
Do you see that in
at their personal level? Oh, there are plenty. I won't tell you before they come and sue me for.
But if you're speaking the truth, defamation.
Defamation.
No, but the truth is.
Don't worry. All the list of corruption activities, they know themselves. Let them go and carry their own load. I'm talking about how to fight corruption.
Yeah.
You see, because if the system was working, if the state's corruption, anti-corruption apparatus was itself working the way it should, Iyoko board should not be appointed by the president. Because the problem we've created in this country, and this one I always lay the blame at the doorstep of President Kufuor and the NPP. The worst public policy within the public sector was that proceed on leave. That proceed on leave has caused more harm to this country than good. Because now it is justifiable that every political group that takes over power, the first thing you do is to clear over 2,000 public sector workers and come and replant your own. Not much experience, not much knowledge on how things are done. So a country that should be propelling at a 60-degree angle scale up, it goes up, then it fluctuates. Then it's now trying to take over again. Then it fluctuates. Then it's trying to take over again. Because the institutional investment that has gone into those people at that level, you've cleared them all. And this is not a one government issue. It started from somewhere, and everybody has seen the advantage because it creates opportunity to help your people. So nobody is able to pinpoint and put their foot down and say that we can't let this thing pass. But when you look at it from a public sector point of view, it weakens the public sector. And we have to get back to the stage where, like in Rawlins's time, I was born Rawlins's time, maybe the years before then, where it was the civil service and the Public Services Commission that were doing their own examinations and their own recruitment and getting the best people to fill those positions. When those people who come there by their own merit and strength are in position, which political system can come and tell if you have gone to apply for a job there and you've gotten that job? You went for an interview, they made you write exams, went to face for interview panel and was given the job. Which politicals, whoever, can come and tell you that that contract you guys are giving have placed in the papers, I want you to give it to this person? Who can come and tell you that? Your first priority, your first loyalty is first to the state, not to any political actor who come and try and compel you to give any project or anything to anybody.
This is a deep-seated crack in our political system. But like you said, we've glossed over it over the period, and things appear to be sinking. How do we resurrect, if you will, the spiritism in that level of confidence that we can have in our democratic dispensation? Because I mean, it goes without saying that all the gains that we are supposed to make, that we've not been able to make, largely can be attributed to the fact that we are so corrupt and it's very stinking that, you know, every time there's supposed to be something new to be done,
but see, if we
lose those monies to corruption.
Right.
But the point is that
they have the capacity
the argument,
to go under the ground and lift these cases.
I agree with you, but the argument has also been about a certain misplaced level of understanding when it comes to corruption, because the argument has always been looked at from the perspective of the politician. But you have public institutions that are really, really draining this country.
That's what I'm saying.
But we're not focusing on them.
That if the institutions, these three institutions, whose mandate it is to fight corruption, were empowered from the very person who leads that organization, and where they derive their authority and their mandate from, their loyalty will be first and foremost to Ghana, and not a political class and political leadership. Politics is such that there are people who understand that in politics, to survive in politics, it is I scratch your back, you scratch my back. If I refuse to scratch my back, I'll be a very lonely person. And that is a choice you, the individual, will make.
When former President John Evans Fifi Atamils, may his soul rest in peace, was in power, I do recall that there was a certain system against the brown envelope. You know, in the public sector. You recall that he said that nobody should accept any brown envelope. You remember?
I remember the hampers.
Well, hampers, brown envelope, hampers and things like that as a means of saying thank you and things like that. That actually sparked a certain conversation. But that level of fire was quenched.
Because you see, let me
and you see, he also created a system of fear. In the public sector space. I recall that you would be there at the time me and my dad were in Tema. So the Tema fishing harbor and things like that. You'll be there now, then the man is there. You'll be there now, then the man is in this Kolebu. He's here. So people were scared, and that is hands-on governance.
But Anas caused more fear than Atamils.
Yes, no, granted. But I'm saying that.
But what is Anas's principle?
No, the principle of
get inside it and pluck it out and expose it.
Anas's fear was backed by the support given to it by government, because Atamils never sat aloof, even after the investigation, to say that he acted.
But at the time of Mills, I was working in the port, and I remember very well. I was working in the scanner company, and I remember very well. That was the time he came to customs, and us did the customs.
Yeah, customs. Yes.
And the scanning business was in partnership with customs. And you'll be there, and then between the truck drivers, the customs officers, and the clearing agents, everybody started mistrusting each other because you don't know who's Anas.
Exactly.
And that is the good thing about it.
No, I get your point, but I'm saying that yes, it came out. I mean, with us. I mean,
but if you have these agencies doing their job well,
yes,
nobody will know which of them is an Anas.
That is the whole point. That's what I'm driving at. The point I'm actually trying to establish is that, and you see, it's a system that has been created, for instance, in Rwanda, to the extent that I have some business partners here. I do business with them. When they give you a contract, and you execute it perfectly, but you just want to go and say thank you, they will never accept it. Because she says she doesn't know who is watching. So it's a system that has been created which is functioning.
Because the corruption thing is not a culture for us. Look at this.
That is the point. So that is what I want us to do.
A company.
Yeah.
A private company. Yeah. There are people there waiting to see somebody. You get to the counter. You start to be friendly with the receptionist.
Yeah.
You go and see whoever you want to see. You come back. Oh, take this for your lunch.
Next time when you come, no, she will allow you.
Next time when you come, no, straight. You are gone.
That's what it is.
That is corruption.
No, but that's what it is.
But the people who are participating in this, they don't think it is corruption.
True.
They won't consider that as corruption.
Yes.
But that is the start of corruption. Because if it was a bank, for example, and we are waiting our turn, but because you know that this person will drop part of the money they've taken out on the counter, now things are more improved, so you get a number and it goes with the number. But in the places where they don't use those numbers and things like that don't work, you are there, then you cut the line and you go. It is part of corruption. So apart from the institutional part of getting it right, you also have to have that education to show people what is corruption.
I think we have really, in a short time, we've managed to provoke
what constitutes a gift and corruption.
Some gifts
but gift even must be declared.
You see?
Yes. You have to pay gift tax.
Yeah, because
once you fail to pay gift tax, then the interpretation of what the gift is changes. Are you following? Okay. Yeah. Because you have to declare it as such. You have to pay gift tax and things like that. But in Ghana, we gloss over all this.
I'm very much interested in these three institutions because let's take another example.
Which three institutions are you referring to?
SFO, Auditor General, and the Ghana Police Service.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm a minister, right? And then I have businessmen friends. I know that if anything happens to me, they'll have my back. In my ministry, I know that we have this project coming up. If I'm not able to even get them a contract for a major project, I know that there are some of those projects they need subcontractors. So I can go behind and influence the main contractor to now subcontract to these people.
Yeah.
It will not go through public procurement because that big one has taken over everything. But I've now have my people inside there executing a project. Whatever they get, there's a percentage you'll keep for me. It's our arrangement.
Yeah.
It is corruption.
Big time.
But the system will only be looking at the big one.
The big one, yeah.
But not the sub one.
So
the institution part is very, very important.
But how do we ensure that we have institutional credibility? Because you see, yes, we have the institution. The institution, if you will, it's a superficial
it's not superficial. It exists.
Well, it does exist.
And it does create itself.
Yeah,
so you have to create it.
That's the point I'm trying to make. That is superficial, and it needs the support of individuals to ensure that it runs perfectly, right? So the operationalization of the activities of the institutions is not divorced from the involvement of people. So you, by all means, have to ensure that the people who are also managing those institutions are not corrupt. How do you ensure that they are not corrupt?
Okay, so now this is the
key. You see, so yes,
we have the institutions you mentioned. How is
and we're going to be discussing this EC matter, EC files response to the Supreme Court and explains why they want to exclude the old voters ID card. You guys have read extensively the issue, but one thing that I want to bring to our notice has to do with the statement from one of the founding members of the governing New Patriotic Party, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. He has said it in our body politic. He continues to say, oh, why is the thing frozen? Because he says, as a founding member of the New Patriotic Party, a party whose philosophy is underpinned by democratic principles, I am deeply worried about what is happening in our dear country, he said. The true character of the president as a human rights lawyer must be brought to the fore to address these negative issues that continue to haunt the good conscience of the people of Ghana. Warning, if care is not taken, a chaotic situation with attendant anarchy can occur. Now, he continues to opine that Plato once said, the price good men pay for indifference on public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. My candid views as a senior citizen on national issues and recent developments in the country have been well articulated through many interviews in the media. There is no doubt at all that there is a political tension in the country. Autocracy and dictatorship appear to be rearing its head in our body politic. As a founding member of the New Patriotic Party, a party whose philosophy is underpinned by democratic principles, I am deeply worried for what is happening in our dear country. Some worrying incidents before and since the assumption of office by President Akufo-Addo in 2017 are worthy of special note. 1. The removal from office of the MPP chairman, Paul Afoko, Vice Chairman, Sami Crab, and General Secretary, Kwame Ejapon, and suspension of other leading members, including my good self, through unconstitutional means under trumped-up charges. 2. It will also be recalled that ASP Nanka Bruce was assaulted at the Jubilee House in January 2017, soon after President Akufo-Addo took office. Although those responsible were seen on tape, no action has been taken to punish them. 3. Removal of Charlotte Osei and her 2 deputies from the Electoral Commission. 4. Suspension of the CEO of the Public Procurement Authority in August 2019 following allegations of sale of contracts and subsequent referral of the case to Shraj. Nothing has happened since. 5. The killing of Ahmed Hussein Swale by an unknown assailant on 16th of January 2019 to date. Nothing has happened. Owusu West Wogon by-election on the 1st January was characterized by violence. No action has been taken on the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry. 7. Unsolved mystery of the 3 kidnapped Tadi girls. 8. Threats to press freedom. Closing down of radio stations, invitation of journalists who did a video recording predicting what the president would say in 31st May broadcast. Kofi Adomawani was invited to come and answer to questions as to why he was able to predict. Now it is bad to predict. It means that former President Dramani Mahama should have arrested that professor's name. That pastor, what's his name? Owusu. He should have been arrested because he also predicted that the Kufuor was going to win. Minister of Communications Owusu was reported to have stated on radio that yet there is shocking silence of officialdom on the potentially divisive and ethnically provocative statement. Hurling of insults by leading party functionaries at political opponents and beating of war drums indicating clearly lack of tolerance and leadership in our democracy. The numerous reported cases of corruption with no action by the government. In January 2020 U.S. News and World Report on the 10 most corrupt countries ranked by perception ranked Ghana as the #1. This was what I was referring to. Most corrupt in Africa and #3 in the world as a whole. The government has not demonstrated commitment to prosecute its officials. The ongoing saga, this is the most important part, the ongoing saga on compilation of a new voters register and the political tension it has created cannot be ignored. The insistence of the Electoral Commission to use passport and NIA card as the only documented proof of citizenship has been met with protests and concerns leading to the present case before the Supreme Court. Dialogue and consensus building among all major political actors have taken backstage contrary to the ECOWAS protocol, which is binding on member countries. Advice from many identifiable bodies such as the National House of Chiefs, CSOs, and lately the Chief Priest of Nungwa, Ni Bokete Lawe Churu, to the EC for dialogue has been ignored. Now, the apparent aloofness of government in this matter can derail the gains of our democracy is very worrying. 13 is linked to the 12. So let me just read that one and we close on this chapter. Action by the police, invitation by the police of persons who have made public statements that can be described as useful wake-up calls on pertinent matters of national interest. Note recent invitation of Wachijan Bernard Mona by the CID. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, okay, I'm almost done, so let me just complete it. In previous media interviews, I alluded to these events and inaction by the government of President Kufuor, pointing out the dangers they pose to our cherished peace and freedom. It appears these admonitions have fallen on deaf ears. These are matters of grave concern. I therefore wish to bring to the attention of the president what Abraham Lincoln said, quote, that is nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, hand him over power. That is what he said. And I cannot find it very exciting. Now, the true character of the president as a human rights lawyer must be brought to the fore to address these negative issues that continue to haunt the good conscience of the good people of Ghana. If care is not taken, a chaotic situation with attendant anarchy can occur. And he continues to say, a word to the wise is in Boko. Gabi, let me stay with you and let's look at some of the things that he spoke about in this wonderful piece put together. Juxtaposing same or drawing, pulling parity with the conduct of Electoral Commission. Pari passu with the disagreements from some other political parties. And the fact that it even went ahead to conduct a pilot exercise without recourse to the law. Because as we have now come to know, when the EC decided to conduct the piloting, the CI hadn't matured. The matter was also before the court. So the question has been widely asked, and I think I've also found the occasion to ask that question on social media, that what gave EC that oxygen and that laxity to embark on this journey of illegality? So we're looking at all of these matters, and I'm allowing you to speak freely on this matter. So Gabi, let's shoot.
On the matter of the EC. over the past few months, we've been having this conversation naturally because we have an impending election ahead of us. Now, the current EC administration may declare that they wanted to change their entire enterprise-wide system. They wanted, in fact, they wanted to bring in sweeping reforms to the Electoral Commission, and that included they changing their enterprise-wide administration system, they getting a new electoral management system, they getting a new data center, they getting a new register. So the reforms that have taken well over 20-something years to sustain the Fourth Republic and the 92 Constitution, investments worth over $200 million are now to be thrown out, and we start afresh all over again within a year of going into an election. A lot of voices, a lot of concerns were raised about the timing of their intervention, about the appropriateness of their interventions, and about whether, looking at the current state that the world is grappling with and the threat of a pandemic to the health and safety of our citizenry, whether it is even appropriate at all for us to continue pursuing this agenda. Subsequently, the EC has been at loggerheads with some of its stakeholders, the NDC being one of them. Other political parties have also expressed strongly their concerns about this matter, including almost 40 civil society organizations. We have independent policy think tanks also expressing their opinion about the whole process for reforms, as I said, within this short period of time. But the question is, what is so pressing? What is it that is making them wanting to undertake this process by every means possible? That question is still hanging because nobody has been able to find the exact answer, the exact response to that. It's a shame Saka could not make it this morning because he would have been the best PRO for them in defense. But I think after the statements and their responses to the Supreme Court, he himself realized that he cannot defend. So decided to sit out. Saka, if you are watching, I greet you.
He's watching.
I greet you. The EC, following events of the past few weeks, has now more or less fallen out with the other political parties. The only political party that is still favoring the EC happens to be the ruling administration, because they have always been in support of a new voters register. The NDC really is not a question of whether we need the voters register or we don't need the voters register. For the NDC, it is more or less of, it is not necessary. It is not a do or die matter. We just don't need it. We have more challenging issues at hand. Some people argue that we've always had challenging issues at hand, which is true. But we've never had the issue of where our Electoral Commission wants to do away with our 200 million investment and start afresh with 800 million investments. The EC and the NDC, together with other political actors, created the inter-party resistance against the new register and have been doing a lot of advocacy, demonstrations, and now the case is in court, led by the NDC, to seek some answers on the CI that the EC presented.
Yeah, the 192.
The 192. Where it's now been voted by the subsidiary legislative committee and with all intent and purposes has now limited the voter cards to the Ghana card, the Ghana passport, and guarantors. The NDC went to court to seek the thought of the Supreme Court on CI, on what why the EC chose not to add the voters' ID card, and to seek responses from the EC. The court agreed, and the EC has now responded with the reasons why they chose not to add the voters' ID card. And amongst the many reasons, one is that the voters' register is like a poison tree which bears poisonous fruits. Now, the questions on the minds of many Ghanaians this morning, from that one paragraph alone, is a very loaded paragraph, which now puts into contention all elections that have been held with that 2012 register, if it was a poisonous register and a contaminated and toxic register. That register has brought in district chief executives, municipal chief executives, district assembly elections, correction. That register brought in President Mahama, and that register brought in President Akufo-Addo. Both gentlemen who are now vying for power again in December 2020, for whom this new register is being solicited. Now, if it was such a poisonous tree, and so it has to be done away with in its entirety, does it then mean that the 2012 election was won on a toxic register? In 2016 election was also won on a toxic register. So does that legitimize these two presidents, or does that take away their legitimacy? The same for the District Assembly elections. The same thing that we are going to use for the referendum on the voting for district chief executives. The same thing that we used to catch out more regions, such that today we have 16 regions. So if this poisonous tree has produced all these for us, which are all constitutional arrangements backed by this constitution, then what do we say of this whole EC and this register? Then with the CI-12, where they've chosen to amend the cards for the breeder documents, they limited it to just these three. In the arguments, the third option, which is a grantor system, according to them, per the old register, the people who were registered and guaranteed for had no proof of citizenry. In other words, the burden of proof was rather on the people who vouched for them. So, and that regime is also existent in the current CI 126. So if, per your own responses, the people who were guaranteed for did not have to prove their citizenry, and the same provision is in the CI 126, is that not to say that the outcomes are going to be the same? Because if in the CI 126, you also need those two guarantors to guarantee for you. If you could prove yourself, don't be guaranteeing for you. Yeah. So again, that also I do not understand. But it is what it is. That is their response. And then let's let it go. I'm going to fire to all this guy then. Kwame. No, I have to, yes, before I'm not a lawyer, before I come and say things that Kwame. The long and short of it all is that the EC has boxed itself into a corner. The EC has boxed itself into a corner and is trying desperately hard to pursue an agenda that is not in its own favor, nor in the favor nor the interest of the people of Ghana. these 3 documents that we've accepted now, because once it goes tomorrow, it matures and it goes to the full house. Once it passes, it's accepted. Looking at the data provision from even the National Identification Authority,
everything is rendered useless.
Everything is rendered useless. The National Identification Authority had their own data. Said that they were supposed to register 17 million people, 70 to 80 million people who are above the age of 15. About 16 or 15 million of them are above the age of 18. As are the data they had on their website in May, they had given out roughly 7 million ID cards. Today, no, on Wednesday, they start the process of handing out about 3 million ID cards, which brings the number of Ghana card IDs issued into the system to about between 10 to 11 million. We only have roughly about 2 million Ghana passports. And mind you, most of these passports are out of the country because citizens outside are using these documents. This passport also does not segment who is 18 years and who is below 18 years. So we don't even know of that 2 million, how many of them are above the age of 18 and can be used as a breeder document to register. So, but even if we were to use that 2 million, that brings the number to, let's say, about 13 million. The Electoral Commission, according to a statement they also issued after their pilot program, say that they are expecting to register about 30 million Ghanaians. If Afarijan's time registered 12 million, I don't know how many Charlotte Osei registered. I haven't checked. But between Afarijan, Charlotte Osei, and Jean Mensah's era, let's even work with a 4-year, assuming we are working with the 12 million, and it's been 4 years for this new register. Should we be registering 13 million or more?
Even the limited registration, what were the numbers?
So the fact is the EC makes projections which suits its own quote-unquote efficiencies. And efficiencies is in quotes because I'm going to get to what constitutes efficiencies. The EC comes up with its own idea of how many people we have to register. But in actual fact, by the time the registration exercise is over, it's offshot that number in excesses. Per their piloting program that they had this past week, the data that we have, the NDC had people on the ground to be monitoring the processes. On average, it takes 15 minutes to register a person. After the registration, the system is now sanitized before the next entry is done. That process, registration plus sanitizing the system, comes to roughly 27 to 30 minutes. So within an hour, even if we do the 15 minutes, that means 4 people per hour per polling center, registration center. If we go with the COVID protocols, with ensuring that the system is sanitized and cleaned and all that, then that will bring 2 people per hour. According to the EC, per what they did, they were able to register in some places 127, 140, 1 this, 1 that. But in their statements, they said that they say that they can register averagely 100 people a day at a registration center, and per the number of days, they can meet the 30 million target. That's why I said per their own efficiencies in quotes. Because the fact of the matter is that, in reality, during the registration processes, we all know systems break down. We all know there are always, in the case where somebody is coming to register and the people are going to protest that this person is not Ghanaian, that is also going to hold the registration processes by some minutes. The weather can come to bear. COVID protocols, we are yet to actually figure out how we are going to do the registration with the COVID protocols. The piloting they did, they had just about 50 people seated that they at a time, and that they were using to check their system. But we all know that in reality, when it's time for the actual registration, there will be times that you get there and you have to deal with roughly 200, 300 people at such registration centers.
Yeah.
So that also has its challenges. So although they are proposing that per their own piloting, they can do 100 per day, and they can, well, by the end of the registration process, they can get to their 13 million. I pretty much doubt that it's going to be 30 million. I am projecting that it will still be in the region of the 16, 17 million that we're anticipating will make it on the voters register. Now on the cards, because they've taken out the old voters ID card, and we are now left with these two ID cards. It means that we stand the chance of disenfranchising a lot of Ghanaians in this process. Currently, if we start work today, assuming that I was on the show last week, the presenter told me that he doesn't have the Ghana card and his passport has expired. So I told him that, well, between now and the registration starts, you either find yourself 2 guarantors on standby or you go and do express renewal of your passport. Now, the express renewal it's more realistic than trying to get a Ghana card, because the Ghana, the National Identification Authority is not going to do the distribution of cards. They haven't said they are starting the registration yet. They're distributing cards, after which they will do the mop-up. So from now till they finish the distribution of the 3 million, I don't anticipate that there's going to be registration. So you now have to find your way to getting a passport.
Yeah.
Unless you can get express,
Which is expensive.
Which is expensive. And the express itself takes between 2 to 3 weeks when your data is in the system. But when you are now coming to get a fresh passport, I hope you have a birth certificate, because if not, you have to go and start the process at birth and death. And from birth and death, you now come to a passport office to try and acquire a passport. As for the 2 guarantors, I don't know. They can go and see if they will get guarantors to grant for them. The guaranteeing system has its own challenges, because here's the case: if any of your guarantors himself is challenged with his registration, what happens to all the people that he guaranteed for? I still want somebody to answer this question for me. I'm not getting answer from anybody. What happens to all the people that this person has guaranteed for?
Their accounts will be revoked.
Is it my fault? I didn't know the person doesn't qualify. You said I should go and find guarantor. Which brings us back to their own response to the issue of the guarantor, saying that the people who were guaranteed for had no need to prove their citizenry. You see, if it's about the number of people we have on our... I understand that we have to clean the register. But cleaning the register, we also have to apply some common sense. Forgive my language if it's a bit strong. It starts and ends at an agency called Births and Deaths. Over the years, we have watched this agency. We don't even pay attention to it, because we don't even see the use of births and deaths apart from giving certificates. The amount of money we've pumped into the NIA, the amount of money we are pumping into Electoral Commission, the amount of money we pump into Passport Office to produce booklets, it all boils down to births and deaths. If we get birth and death right, the data from birth and death, what is these days everything is biometric, should feed straight to NIA, should feed straight to Passport Office, should feed straight to EC. Death certificates and the provision of death certificates should feed straight to the EC, so that automatically you have a system that is able to clear the people who have died out of the register. Because today, if we change this register, in 4 years' time, people will die. Today we start, the following day, every single day somebody dies. So should we'll wait, and then 10 years later we'll come back and say that we have so many dead people on the register, so we have to have that register all over again. That's what we said to 2012 when we did the other biometric register. This was going to be our last register, and then we'll work at how to improve that register. if you don't get birth and death right,
okay,
if you are dying, they give you back death certificate.
Yes.
Who issues that certificate? Before they bury you, they must produce that certificate.
Okay.
So why can't they use that data to reconcile?
Okay. Thank you very, 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 very much, Gabi. You've simplified the issue.
Yes.
You remember?
Kwame, you know what? We, the youth now, we look towards people like our forebearers like Nkrumah, and we are proud. I am saying that in the next 20, 30 years, the youth will look up to the people who are now in power and they'll be very disappointed. Say that, hey, we can't even apply logical reasoning to issues. It has to be partisan. Listen, Kwame, this issue, Grabella has dealt with it in depth, but I will also make it much simpler for the audience or for your listeners or viewers. Now, what is in contention? That we want to clean a new register or want to, get a new election management system. Is there a need for it? That is the first question. My party doesn't have a position on this issue. So whatever I'm going to share here is my personal opinion on this issue. Kwame, the basis of the argument will be in pursuant of Article 42. Who qualifies to be a voter? You must be 18 years, you have to be a citizen. The next question, or also be in sound mind. The next question, who qualifies to also be a citizen? Pursuant to Article 6. Rules of citizenship, by birth, by marriage, sometimes it's even conferred on you. Now, the challenge here is that we are seeing that there are a lot of foreigners or people who don't deserve to be on the register, who are on the current register. And the question I ask is that, by this new system that you are introducing, are you saying that the same error will not occur? The same thing will occur. And I'm telling them the value is the same. Why am I saying this? Now, you said passport. You said Ghana card. I am telling the EC today, there are a lot of people who are not Ghanaians who have the passports. A lot of people who are not Ghanaians, they have the Ghana card.
The Nigerians get some.
They get some. So what is the essence of it? Now, you are telling us that if you don't have those two documents, you have to get somebody to vouch for you as a guarantor. That's has applied since CI 12. And I was looking for CI 12, and it was in somewhere in 95. You see, the legal basis they are making, they are drawing from 95, saying that as at that time, you don't need to prove your citizenship to guarantee for somebody. So meaning that if we use CI 12, which was in 95 for 96 election, it means that the person acquired a card through CI 12, acquired a voter's ID card, and he used that same card to acquire a new card, and he used the same card to acquire a new card. You understand what it means? Meaning that if you use the CI 12 to acquire the card, and that guaranteed you to get the card up to 2012. Meaning that all those years that you've used the CI 12 in getting new cards, it is illegal. Because you couldn't, if somebody guaranteed for you, the person doesn't need to prove his citizenship. Now, Kwame, most interesting part of it is that if we want to really apply these laws, then in essence, what we are trying to do to ourselves is to entangle our own self, to entangle ourselves. Because as Gabriela rightly said, the vouching system or the guarantee system is also in place in the new CI. It's still in place. So as she said, you can also have a non-Ghanaian guarantee for you, Kwame, if you don't have a passport or how do you call it, a Ghana card. And that is problematic. When you come to the numbers they're talking about, in 2012 you said they had about 11 million people on the register. I'm not very good with statistics, but if you try to do common extrapolations, you realize that at least just with the limited registration, we had over 1 million. Meaning that within a period of 8 years, we should expect 8 million in addition, making it even more than your 17, 18 you're predicting. I'm even pegging it around 18, 19, 20, which is a possibility. Kwame, so if you tell us that you are working with figures around 13 million, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Reverse engineering.
You understand? So, Kwame, now, my sister also mentioned the Ghana card. You see, we started this exercise about 2 years ago. What is it that, for more than a year and a half, we can't get Ghana card exercise completed? What is it? Is it rocket science? And EC were seeking to use only 40 days to register people. And Ghana card, we've had more than a year. You couldn't even complete this common exercise. If we have done that, it would have been very simple for all of us. If majority of Ghanaians had a Ghana card, Kwame, they will not be, shouting this morning. We'll all be relaxed. But what has happened to the Ghana card? As we speak, so many people don't have their Ghana card.
They said yesterday they issued 3 million cards. So
well, I also have people in my area now.
They are not
they
coming
did the
to issue
registration last
cards.
year. Still, they are waiting their cards. They've not gotten their cards. So what happens? So is it that we are just loving the throwing money about? Because this exercise is worth millions of dollars. And we could have done it well. By now, they are doing their mop and we've done everything. And all what the EC needs is to just get this data and transfer it into their system and just open now for a limited registration. So that those who couldn't register for the Ghana card can then come in. They would have saved millions of dollars. It looks as if we enjoy spending money in this country. And it's so unfortunate, Kwame. Now, I think I'll just run up. Kwame, if we are going to spend so much dollars in acquiring a new system, and at the end of the day, so many people are not able to get to the register, what have we done to ourselves? We are going to spend all these monies, and at the end of the day, you are able to register 12 million, and maybe you are short of 5 billion people. What have we done? What kind of investment is this? This is a bogus investment.
Yerimambo says this is a bogus investment arising out of a possibility of not being able to capture all eligible voters onto the new voter register, assuming without admitting that that becomes the case.
But it looks likely.
I'm not surprised that Africa is going backwards and blacks are not respected in America for a trivial reason. The EC is wasting taxpayers' money for illogical reasons, and Ghanaians are sitting aloof. I'm surprised with our generation today. God save Ghana. Kweku from La Paz sent in this very nice message. Sefia Moklu. Considering the fact that voter IDs to be issued the very day registration kickstart are invalid until a final register is ready.
Exactly.
Won't it amount to an illegality should the very people who vouch for persons get challenged and deleted from the register for whatever reason? What this means, therefore, is that the 10 people I vouch for and the 100 people these category of persons vouch for are all going to be affected by my deletion, isn't it? It is for such reasons that in Togo, for instance, your voter ID is not presented to you on the day of registration. This simply means that you will have an unactivated document in your possession, which for a reason or two might be taken from you.
Wow.
Sefia Moklu sent in this one.
Interesting.
Almighty Alhaji Hamza in Pig Farm says, KOD, what is more fantasy than President appointing a Director General of Keta Seaport that does not exist? And the Director General takes home salary every month for no work done. And Ghanaian journalists are all quiet about it. If this was to be President Mahama era, the First Lady, Madam Rebecca, took Mrs. Trump to visit the Rich Hospital on her visit to Ghana, just to show her how beautiful the hospital is. I think the managers of Mr. President are doing more harm to him than good. Okay, corruption is not limited to politicians. According to former President J. Ekufuor, corruption is as old as Adam. Corruption persists among individuals and organizations in both the private and public sectors. Mechanics, carpenters, masons, electricians, etc. are always keen on cheating rather than doing genuine work. In public sector, corruption starts from schools, and children are socialized into seeing corruption as normal. We have a big problem as a country, and the earlier we face it, the better, my brother. Thank you. The EC has lost its sense of dignity. We do not have to go and queue from midnight till evening just to register, considering the limited time available. The stress on we the citizens will be dire. In fact, we don't want any new register. EC should leave Ghanaians alone. Abba Semsuni. Good morning to you, KOD. In fact, I admire you a lot, so I want you to mentor me. Can I please have your number? Oh, my brother. Send me a message on Facebook. Kwame Owusu, so I'll respond. I promise. Eji Farouk in Tamale North. Good morning to you. It is surprising those who call themselves patriots are now discriminating others not to exercise their political ambitions. The disqualification of the MPP's potential candidates by their party leadership is unacceptable and strange to Ghana's democracy. Hashtag kick out Nana. Dr. Nyaho Tamakolo is a great man. What he has said is the truth from SS Bugari inside Bolga. Good morning to KOD. I want you to ask Gabi for me whether she has ever been angry before. Yaya Messi from Kaswa. She's always smiling. KOD, if you find somebody always smiling, fear those people. KOD, if EC is saying the current voter register is poisonous, that means Supreme Court also made judgment on poisonous register in Abu Ramadan case. I like that. Adams from Sunyani. Hello, good morning to you, brethren. I'm Norbert Tenu from Nungwa. May we know from EC if those who are infected by COVID-19 virus will be allowed to come out from their hospital beds, make a queue, go through the process and obtain new voters ID cards, since they too have the right to be part of the exercise. I agree with you. Hi, Mr. Host. Is the voters register bloated at all? By what figure? Our statistical service is yet to conduct population census in the country. Atefua from Asebu. I think Asebu is Felix Kwachi's constituency, right? Guarantors are supposed to collect the ID cards before they can do that. It's in response to what you said. During the NI registration, I was to guarantee for some people, but I got my cards after 1 week before they said the cards got finished. So those I was to help could not register at all. Meanwhile, you cannot recognize my face on the card. Kofi from Akachi South sent in this one. Interesting times there. Serious Kwame. How can a president who is over 75 govern like this under unprecedented corruption? Nanado should remember what he said in opposition, such as corruption, infrastructure, and many more promises. The messages are coming in left, right, center. I cannot read all of them. Kwame, good morning, Kwame. How we can eradicate corruption in our society? Kwame, I think that powers of the president to appoint head of institutions must be taken away from him and given the public service to institute a criteria which this would enable them to fight corruption. Charles Anaji West. Okay. Okay. I always enjoy suggestions for the eradication of corruption in my beautiful motherland, Ghana. However, I think that all and every such beautiful solution wouldn't work. It goes on and on. No. Thank you very much. I've seen all your messages on social media. Gabriela, you're watching. Hadia Amda too. You said a special good morning to us. Thank you very much for watching. Saka Salia, get well soon. Hadia, we are with you. We share with you in your times of sorrow. We hope and pray that you're going to go through this one too. I know you're a very tough woman, so that you can get back on track for your campaign. Gabi, thank you very kindly for today. I appreciate the time. Thank you to you, Mambo. It's been absolutely exciting having both of you in the studios. You guys have really expanded your argument, and at least we've been able to learn a thing or two from them. My name is Kwame Owusu, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Do have a very wonderful day. Salute.
He has labored, he has suffered, people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Kwame Nkrumah.